Right, this week on the Management Podcast, I've got the one and only Gordan Boateng. Gordan, how are you?
I'm honoured, Fish, to be on this podcast. I've got to be honest. Listen, I've looked at all the others and I'm so impressed in what you're doing. I just wanted to start with that. Before we get into the obligatories and the things we have to get through, I just want to give you a lot of credit for what you're doing. You know, making sure people know what's going on for these up and coming coaches, up and coming managers. You know, the people you've lined up so far has been phenomenal. I've watched every single one, so credit to you. I think it's a fantastic podcast.
No, honestly, Boatsy, you honour me. Honestly, it's a pleasure to have you on, to have your time, for you to share your experience and your knowledge. I mean, there's not many people out there with your kind of knowledge, you know.
It's football. Listen, we love the game. It's a beautiful game. We know we can talk about it all day, all night, and I think anybody you get on will be happy to speak to yourself about it. As long as they truly love the game, just be happy to discuss it, mate.
100%.
So fire away. What have you got for me? Come on, I'm ready for you.
Do you know what? I want to dig out the archives.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Should we start from the beginning?
Yeah, let's go from the beginning.
Let's start from the beginning. So I was a young lad. Every young lad wants to play football. So had loads of trials. Leicester City, Luton Town, rejection. And that's not because I wasn't a good player. It's just about the fact that they were like, oh no, you know, you're similar. That's the thing I used to get a lot when I was playing. You know, getting into the YTS stages. Then I went to Bristol City and luckily, you know, had opportunities there. And then after that, then that's when the football career sort of like catapulted and went on to pastures, better pastures, obviously, for the professional game of Leyton Orient. And Tommy Taylor was the manager at the time, and we had loads of forwards. I mean, he's probably the first manager that I know or I've ever known to have like 7 forwards.
Wow.
7 forwards. And that's no joke. So it was myself, Carl Griffiths, KK Apara, Chris Tate, Richard Garcia, who used to play for Hull. He's still playing now. Do you know what I mean? Australian lad, very good forward. He came from West Ham at the time. And then we had the likes of Gavin Taylor coming through, Aaron McLean. So you see the names straight away. I'm giving you a lot of names there. Do you know what I mean? And Jay as well. So we had like some really, really, really good forwards. The competition was rife. But then I had this club in Norway who was watching me while I was there, because I was going to go there first. But then I was like, oh, look, let me just see what's going on, you know. East London, you know, I'm a London guy. I wanted to try and stay playing football, London based. But then when you get an opportunity, Fish, I think one of the biggest things in football, which I always say to people, is when you get an opportunity, you can't turn it down. And one of the biggest things for me was I saw this opportunity and I felt I had to take it. You know, I wasn't getting the game time that I wanted. You know, at that time, Norwegian football was relatively big, but you know, I mean, it's not, you know, there's teams in there, obviously, that play in the UEFA Cup, Champions League and stuff like that. So to be amongst that sort of remit of teams is what you want. You know, this is the sort of thing I wanted in this country, where I was like, you know, if I can go there and make a name for myself and do well, you know, it was fantastic. So yeah, I spent about 2 years there, getting my head down, doing what I had to do. But I just didn't really score enough goals. I was more of a crowd pleaser, you know, just enjoying the game, doing what I had to do, and like, and as I say, living the life, you know, because, you know, I'm young, what am I, 18, 19, young lad, you know what I mean? You're them sort of ages, you're like, man, this is it. You've got everything. I don't want to overdo it, but, you know, you've got the world at your feet. Do what you want, you know. All you do is play football. Go home, train, go to bed, play football. Everyone knows you all down the street. Everyone knows who you are. So that was good. It was some great experience, but that was actually the start of my coaching journey, which was funny, because when I think I turned 20, the under-19s academy manager, because that's what it was called back then, but it's called scholarships now, or it was YTS back then, he had left. So I was like, I can do this. And there was, the manager was like, what do you mean you can do that? I was like, yeah, I think I can, like, you know, can manage the team. I feel that I can, you know, look after the youth. Because so what? So you're going to work with the youth, train all day with them, train with us, and double it up. So I said, yeah. So the manager, he wasn't really interested. So with those types of European clubs, you have to go to see the director of football. I knocked on his door and I said, look, Frank Gilbertson, I think I can do this. You know, give me the opportunity. If I don't do well, then just find somebody else. So he said, okay, look, I'll give you a chance. And Fish, aka.
Oh, Boatsy, you've cut out.
Hear me?
I can't. You've frozen on me.
Okay, what about now? Am I back?
You're back. You're back.
So I said, we must have played against Start. They beat us 6-1. First game, 6-1.
Wow.
I lost my rag. I lost the plot. Seriously, like, I mean, I totally lost the plot. Because, like, I'm used to winning. Like, on the pitch, you're used to winning. Even when I play computer games, I want to win. Like, standard things like that, I just want to win all the time. So to get humiliated in my first game and to have him go back and say, we've lost our first game under me, 6-1 was bad. It's nothing to do with language. Football's a universal game. Do you get what I mean? You understand it, pass and move, do what you got to do. I thought I got the tactics right. But one of the biggest problems was the players were comfortable. They was all like, oh, you know, we know you play in the first team. Some of them were like, was part of the first team setup. So it's like, oh, you know, it's cool and it's cool. But it wasn't, after that day, it wasn't cool. They learned a lesson. And that's when you had to stamp your authority. Like, that's where you got defied being a friend and being a manager. And I remember I'm like at the age of now 20 going to do this job. You know, so we started to pick up results, started winning a few games, not too bad, doing really well. Then the first team manager was like, oh, like, you know, do some coaching on the first team. 20. I'm young. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll get myself involved. And that's when I first got the bug into, right, I'm going to be focusing on management. So then obviously you've got to do your badges and stuff like that. So okay, I'm going to do all of that, get myself to where I need to be, and then we'll go from there. So I was still playing. And then I got injured, or I had an opportunity to come back. My agent phoned me and said, look, come back. Don't renew your contract. Come back. I've got offers for you. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll come back. So I spoke to him. I said, okay, what's the offers on the table? He went through a few clubs. I said, okay, not too bad. Then I went and played 5-0 with my friends. So I think you lot call it Power League now, whatever you call it, or goals or whatever. So I was in there messing about, thinking, yeah, I'm sorted. You know what I mean? I'm coming back. You know, oh, this is the guy that's played in Norway, thinks he's really big time. Bang, got clamped. And I was like, wow, yeah. So then my first hamstring went and my Achilles, and I went, oh my God, yeah, double whammy. Imagine, like, when you're talking about injuries, this was a sort of injury that, I mean, when you're in pain, I was in serious pain. That sort of wiped me out necessarily. And then I had to start reassessing what I'm going to do. And then I was like dropping down the leagues now. Then I'm like going into, like, I think it's League 2 now. But then I'm going on trial at Barnet, getting told I'm the same as others. But I wasn't the same player. Does that make sense? I wasn't the same player. And I was more interested in coaching. I was more passionate about coaching. So then I just dropped into non-league, played for a few clubs. And I think it was, where was I? So I played for different clubs, from like Kingstonian down to the likes of Hertford Town, so like conference down. And then I think when I got to, I think it was like Ryman 1, back then it was called Isthmian League, or whatever it was back then. And I was like, I've dropped this low. I've literally dropped this low. And then I've got a manager going, oh, I just want you to be a target man. I don't want you doing fancy things. I'm like, he goes, and I'm like, yeah, that's not my game. My game is to get on the ball, do what, you know, this is how I play. When you signed me, this is what it was. Because I didn't sign you, the last manager signed you. All right, fine, whatever. And then at half time we'd come in. And then he goes, listen, I've heard you've like done your coaching, you think you know a bit. If you think you can do this job, why don't you be a manager? I said, okay, I will. And he went, what? I said, yeah. I said, you know what? You might as well sub me off. Today's my last day. And that's it. So he subbed me off. And then from that day onwards, I went into the realms of coaching. You know, I went down to do under 18s, because you need to learn your stripes. I think that's so important in football. You've got to go through the fundamentals. I always say to people, you're going to start off doing something, do the fundamentals, understand the whole process of football. So nothing better than doing your under 18s, your reserves, then your first team. If you're a coach, the first team coach, assistant manager, first team. If you're lucky enough to be a first team manager off the back of being a reserve team manager, then great. So my journey was Barking and East Ham, under 18s manager. First team manager was like, oh, look, can you play for us, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, I really want to just focus on coaching. But I said, I'll help you out, I'll play. So I still played for them. Mark Shilton was the manager then, nice guy, he was okay. And he did me a favour, actually did me a touch. So that's why I've mentioned his name, I'm doing him a favour. Because he turned around and said to me, Gordan, listen, you're not bad at coaching, You need to take this seriously, because my under 18s were unbeaten, won every game, was like representing for Barking. They're called Barking and East Ham then, but they're called Barking FC now. So he was like, look, you're representing, you've got to think about the reserve team manager's position come up. Do you fancy it? I said, yeah, no problem. That's okay. So he just installed me as reserve team manager. Under 18s, he said, I'll give the under 18s to someone else, do the reserve. Totally different kettle of fish. And I said, oh, if I'm going to play, if you're going to be in the reserves, I need to play. So I still was like player, manager sort of thing. And I just thought I'll do it because, I had played higher than the players. So I wanted to show them certain things. Because sometimes you've got to be able to lead. I think players respect you if you played at a certain level and you can show them that you can still do things. So I think with Barking, that's what happened in the reserves. I played a few games with them. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm ready to try and take the next step, which is first team. Now, Schultz left, but I wasn't ready for Barking's first team at that stage back then. You know what I mean? Now I'm looking at I'm 21, 22 years of age. Not quite ready yet because, I just didn't feel I was ready. And plus the club was he wasn't really, they were like, oh, we're looking at these targets. So, okay, no problem. So I moved from Barking to Clapton, who was in the division below. So I went to Clapton and I was assistant manager there. So I got the opportunity to go to Clapton as assistant manager. Now that was good because then I learned about losing. Sounds weird, but I learned about losing because prior to that, youth reserves, I was winning. Yeah, so I was used to winning. I didn't like losing, but I was used to winning. But when you're in a competitive first team environment where points matter, the problem was we were getting battered. Now, I spoke to you about the youth game in Norway where I lost 6-1. Now, at Clapton, it was a regular. 6s, 7s, 5s, 4s. 4 was a good result. We got beat 4-0 was a good result. And I was like, no, it ain't. So I said to the manager, I said, look, we can't continue to keep losing. This is not going to happen. So he said, look, it's depressing me a little bit. Do you fancy taking it on till the end of the season? I said, what? You want me to manage the team, yeah? So he said, yeah, take it, manage the team. So I thought, okay, you know what? Let's give it a crack. Let's see. I can't do any worse. I'm already getting slapped every week. So then I started to remember some of the boys that were getting released from Barking and a few other clubs that are around and higher steps that wasn't playing. So I just signed all those players that I knew, players I'd played against. And I just brought them and I said, look, you're not playing, come and play for me till the end of the season. All of the players came and then we had a run right till the end of the season of winning games. Now winning becomes a habit, like losing was a habit. So the hardest thing was about, right, am I going to make the change? But it wasn't for me. That wasn't the hardest thing for me. Those players wasn't good enough. So it's easy to replace them with better players. So I was like, right, you lot have to go. I'll play as and when I need to play, but I'm going to make sure I get the right players in. So I did that job until the end of the season. Manager came back, said, look, are you going to stay next year? I said, no. I said, you come back, you manage it. I've just got a phone call from Bishop Stortford. They've offered me the Capital League manager's job, which is the reserve team manager's job, but they was in a Conference South then. And that's the first season there was ever in the Conference South. That was back in 2002, 2003 season. So Les Whitten, was like, look, come down. You know a lot of players, you could do really, really well. This is a competitive league. A lot of the players that play for us here, we will send on loan to like Ryman 1 clubs, Ryman 2 clubs. So this is a good platform. And you're playing against full-time teams like Stevenage, Gravesend and Northfleet, who's Ebbsfleet, Thurrock, and like all of the top conference teams that were full-time Farnborough at the time when they were in the conference, they were all like good sides. So you're playing against those teams in the Capital League. And let me tell you, Dagenham and Redbridge. Now it was tough. Do you get what I mean? It's tough. You're playing against full-time teams. And I remember when I saw John Goodwin, the chairman, I remember this. he sat there and he said, listen, as long as you finish second from bottom, I'm happy. If you can get one player into the first team, you can keep your job until the next season. I said, so what? I just need to get one player into the first team and not finish bottom. And that's it. That is it. I said, okay. Right, okay. So I got 4 players into the first team.
Smashed it.
We won the league by 8 points. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I was able to join the first team coaching team as well, all in one season. And I think that was the thing where I started saying to myself, you know what, this is what it's all about. So straight away, it's youth team, straight into reserves, straight into first team, straight into a conference setup, but in the reserve team. Then John Steele makes the phone call. If John Steele phones you from Dagenham and Redbridge, you answer the call, especially once you've beaten his team 5-0. And he's like, look, I've played people that are playing in the conference national. How have you beaten us 5-0? So I want you to come and work with us. John Steele was like that. He always wanted the best people around him, and he wanted a lot of players. So I'm looking at it thinking, well, listen, John Steele's interested in me. I've got to go. When you're young, you're just running. You're like, okay, mate, I'm just catapulting. I've gone from step 5? It was still step 4, step 3, step 2. Now I'm in step 1. 1 step away from the Football League. I'm only 23. What? Truly, seriously, when you look at it, 23, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to be in the Premier League before I know it. That was my mindset then as a youngster. I'm like, yeah. So I've gone to Dagenham and Redbridge with the best guy that you could be with your non-league, a man that knows it, the man that's won the conference, the man that's taken the team to the Football League into League One. You know, John Steele is, like they say, the epitome. He's like the Harry Redknapp of non-league football. You know, he knows his stuff. He's a wheeler dealer, but he gets good quality young talent. So I remember when I first met him, I thought, oh, you know what, he's a cool guy. You can learn off him. And I did. I learned so much. But the thing that we had was, it was like that all the time because he wanted to play a certain way. And I was like, well, why don't we play a passing game? Why don't we play a game with like a bit more purpose? And it's like, no. When I was at Barnet, we played this way. We got promoted when I was like, so we're going to play, get the ball, get them turned, squeeze up, pick up the second balls. That's it. Now I'm thinking, this ain't football. So I'm like, John, look, I don't know about this. I said, I'm here, so I'm gonna work with you. But really, if this is how we're going to play, let's have a look. So we played that style of football. For the first time, it was effective. It was fantastic. He said, look after the reserves, look after the head of youth, get them playing the same way. But I didn't. You know, I decided that I wanted them to pass, I wanted them to move, I wanted them to play the right way. And that was the problem again. The youth team was top, the reserve team was top. So my point, which I was arguing, and the first team was top. So I'm like, you know, we can still be top and we're pushing people through, but they all like to play football. You should trust the players more. And he's like, Gordan, I've been in the game long enough to know what needs to work. And I'm saying to you in a conference, we need to play this way. And I'll give him credit. What he said did work because he had the right players. He had good enough players to play the way he wanted. Back then, I couldn't see it. Now I've moved on. Now I'm older. Now I'm wiser. It's different. Back then, I'm younger. I'm like, no, my philosophy works. I'm proven. Won all these trophies and won all these cups. It's proven that playing football the right way will work. So I skin it, bear it. Win the league. We're in the Football League. Oh my gosh, I'm here. I've arrived. This is it. Okay, so I'm now part of a Football League club. Instead of staying and being happy, tune up, I was like, I need to manage. I can't be told what to do. I need to do this myself. Like the itch for managing, like being the main person, even though I had the best tutor, really, like, you know, if he watches this, he's gonna be like, oh, I did tell you. But still, I'm gonna allow him, I'm gonna agree. He was the best mentor at the time for me to learn because he taught me a lot of things with regards to getting the right players from lower down, giving people the opportunity, hard-working players, you know, actually focusing on certain things to make players better, selling players on. The best person I know about selling talent that no one even sees and making them a star. Do you know what I mean? From like the White Girl, Craig McKell-Smith, Wesley Thomas, you know, Paul Benson, Danny Green. That's just a few names. Anwar Udin. There's so many, you know, Sam Saunders. There's just so many players. Harley Dean. He's had all these players in his team. Glenn Southern. Like, I can keep rattling them off because of so many. Do you get what I mean? My point here is that he was able to find them. I didn't find them players. Didn't find them at all, but he did. And he said, how did I get them to these stages? And I remember we had that sit down. So I said, look, let's have a chat. Then he called me and goes, Gordon, I need you to come into the club today. And I was like, okay. Thought we was having a day off. So we've come in. And he goes, I've heard a rumour. So what's the rumour? He said, I heard a rumour that you've been applying for jobs. I said, have I? Yeah, you've been applying for some manager jobs. I said, oh yeah. I said, yeah, well, look, John, you know, it's one of them ones, Stilly. I think that I'm ready to manage again. He goes, but you ain't got enough experience. You need to learn a bit more. Stay with me. I'll get you ready. And then when it's the right time, then you can go. You never know. I might retire, which clearly is proven like he never wanted to retire. I might retire. You might be able to become the manager. I went, you're never going to retire. So I'm not going to fall for that. So he turned around and just was like, oh, look. So just let me get this right here today. And Terry Harris was sitting there and he went, you want to leave Dagenham and Redbridge Football Club? And I said, yeah, like, you know, I want to be a manager. You know, I'm not here to be a follower. I'm not here to, like, you know, ride off your coattails. I'm here to be my own man. I want to prove myself. I want to be up against you guys and prove that I belong at this level by my own rewards, not just by being part of your coaching team. I really want to show that I can do this. So all them jobs I'd gone for, I don't know what had been said or whatever. Obviously, they went through for a reference. I didn't get any of them. Didn't get any of the jobs. Now, I'm coming from the Football League. Now, all these jobs were like, you know, conference and conference below. So I thought I must get one of them. Definitely going to get one. Definitely. I'm coming from the Football League. There's no way I'm not going to get one of these jobs. Didn't get them. And I was like, wow, okay. That's when the reality hit about how difficult management becomes when you're up against people going for jobs and, you know, getting no's. Now, when you're learning about getting no, sorry, no, we've gone with someone else, that was what was happening. So I then had to think to myself, how low am I going to drop? And I was like, I'm not sure. Not too low. So again, I tried to apply for more jobs that were coming up. Didn't get them. And then all of a sudden, someone said to me, oh, something about Brimsdown. And I went, well, I'm going to come from Football League and go to step 6. No, I don't think I can do that. This is what the conversation was. But then my pride got the better of me, and I said, no, I've got to prove myself. If this is what needs to happen, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe I'm going to have to do this. So I spoke to Brimsdown, and we had a nice conversation. And they was like, "Oh, so do you want the job?" And I went, "Right, they're giving it to me straight. I've just turned up." Do you get what I mean? I've not given them no PowerPoint presentation, given them all the big things that I had to do at conference level and that. I've just gone there, had a mothers meeting, and I've got the job. I'm like, okay, well, do you want me to talk you through my plans? Nah. Don't worry, you got it. Wow. I went, okay, that was easy. So I got the job. I watched their first game. I looked at a few of the players and I thought, they're not great, but they will do. So then I didn't take the first game. So the second game I took, and I did the training session, and I realised people were coming late to training. People turning up when they wanted, going home when they wanted, and I went, is this what's happening here? I can't have this. So I had to literally do a revamp. And I remember we played Buckingham Athletic, and that was a turning point in the season because we lost that game only 2-1. So we didn't get smashed, we didn't get hammered, we lost 2-1. And I said to myself, you players ain't good enough. And I said that to all of them. I said, you're just not good enough for what I'm looking for. I need to build with a team of people I trust. I need to build a team with players that are willing, because they were like a drinking social club guys, go and have a drink, have a smoke, all of them sort of things. And I've never witnessed that. Never ever, obviously, because I haven't really been around the Sunday league element. So I'm not used to seeing people smoking and stuff like that. I was used to a professional surrounding. So I'm like, this can't work. I can't have this. So I remember I had a bust up with one of the players who was their best player at the time. He was their best player because he felt my rules were too strict and too hard. We come to training when we want. We come to games when we want. You're only paying us petrol money, so we do what we want. I went, player power. I said, that don't work with me. I could see why the last manager's lost his job or left or whatever the situation may be. So I was like, okay, you know what? This was going to happen. Revamp. So I literally changed the whole squad. I must have kept 2 players, and they were the 2 youngest players in the team straight away. So I've got some of the boys that were in the reserves at Dagenham Redbridge, some of the boys that had the Bishop Stortford, some other boys at the same level. And I said, right, give me the opportunity here to come here and win the league. They're like, we can't win the league. Mathematically, we can't. So I'm not worrying about this season. Talk about next season, but we need to make a statement between now and the end of the season. So between that Buckingham game and the end of the season, we didn't lose a game.
Wow.
Didn't lose a game. So then we came from, 17th, and then we finished 4th. So I said, can you see what can happen when everybody does things the right way? Yeah. Because what I introduced was things like video analysis. We watched our games in training. We worked on set pieces. We did shadow play, pattern of play. We did technical sessions. Do you know what I mean? We did 1v1s. We did defensive work, doing defensive work, midfielders doing, and forwards working with the forwards. Do you get what I mean? Bringing it all together, small-sided games, short and sharp, all intensity, high-purpose training that got people into game mode ready. And these are all of the key things that I always say to people. Make sure not only can you manage, but be able to coach, because your players will respect you, especially when you have to do phases of play and pattern of play ready for your opposition. So go and scout. And so I made sure we had the other teams watch, knew what they were going to do. We was prepared at that level. Remember what I'm saying to you, at that level, we wanted to instill that sort of professionalism from the beginning. So that helped us ready for the next season. So the next season was the blockbuster season. The next season, we started the league season 6-0 win. And then without boring you, we literally stormed the league, scored 112 goals, conceded 15.
Wow.
Conceded 15 all season.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was it. We set a record. The record's still there when you look at it in the Spartan League history. We went on, had some very good players. We had the likes of like Reece Prestige, who plays in the conference now, Gavin Taylor, Aaron Churchhouse, Mervyn Abraham. We had Aaron Scott. We had Tom Chapman. We had Mehmet Hussein, who now works for Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? We've had some very, very, very good players in there. Danny Bleach. Eric Menangu, who was at Chelsea, came to play for us. Scott Atkinson, prolific goal scorer, scoring bicycle kicks from 25 yards. You know what I mean? So we had like the team there. When I talk about having unity in a bond, I had a bond in that team. Like, it was unbreakable. We had people like Darren Reed, our right back, who was scoring for fun. We had a guy called Michael Pele, because I know he's going to be watching this. Now, he was a player that could play anywhere. I remember he said, and I hope he is watching this. I hope you're watching. He said, there's no way you're going to win the league with these young players. So I bet him. I said, listen, I promise you, on my life, we will. And at the end of the day, listen, I don't take the money from him. I let him have it. But I just said, look at your trophy cabinet now, son. Yeah. So we won everything. League Cup, the league, Challenge Cup. We won what we needed to win. Next season, same thing. But then the board called to me and said, look, we need to go through. We need to go through what's going to happen the next year. We haven't got the infrastructure to go up again. So we can't go into like step 4. We can't get promoted into that league because we haven't got enough people behind the scenes to do what's needed to be done. So I had to make a conscious decision, because by then I'd got a phone call from Harlow Town where they said, look, we want you to come in, and they were running the Premier. So that's step 3. So now I'm coming from like step 5 to step 3. And I'm like, do I leave something that I built where I've had like an unbeatable team? Like, people feared us. Do you get what I mean? We had a team that was, to me, was probably the best team I've had that I put together, that was able to go out and do what was needed. And I think if I had that team now, we'll probably be pushing into the conference and looking to push on into the league. Give me 1 second. Can you hear that in the background?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. So we pushed. So that was a great team. So it was very hard for me to leave that team to go to Harlow. Well, I went to Harlow because it was another opportunity to go higher. If the chairman would have said something different to me, then it would have been a different kettle of fish. It would have been a different story. But because he said, look, I can't keep you, we are not ready to go up, I had to literally just take it upon myself to say, you know what, I'm just going to have to leave. And I didn't want to. I'm telling you today, I wanted to stay because I wanted to build the project and get them as far up as possible. Do you get what I mean? It was in every paper. We'd won everything in sight. And when you're winning, you're happy. So I went to Harlow reluctantly, but it was higher. You know, they offered to pay you, you know, all of the things that you want as a coach and as a manager. But it came with restrictions, obviously. You know, you come higher, they expect certain things. And I remember we had our director of football who was very much like things done a certain way. But yeah, listen, he's a guy that knows the game, so I can't say anything other than respect to him. He knows his football, Tommy Cunningham. He was a man that, you know, he was instrumental in bringing me to the club. So all I can do is give him nothing but respect. But I think for me, again, I came in as like assistant. I was like, look, I'm a manager. I need to focus on like managing. Do you know what I mean? But I went and done what I had to do. You know, I served under Ryan Kirby. We did well. We did okay. And then the Chesham job came about, and I went, do I stay or do I go to a club that I played for before and manage them? So I said, you know what? I'm going to leave because I want to manage, which was fine. Everybody was happy with it. I moved on, went to Chesham. We was doing well. I had a very good team at Chesham. And that was a good experience because then again, listen, I'm at the same level. So at the same level, I'm able to now be the man in charge. But then this is when I had the first time when I faced a team full of contract players. So before that time, I hadn't faced a team full of only contract players. But when I went to Chesham, the players was on contract. So when players are on contract, all you can do is you have to look to sell them or you've got to work with them. That's the 2 choices you've got there. So I had got players in there that didn't want to be at the club. They wasn't happy. Unfortunately, some of them wasn't getting paid on time. So I had all of these things that, and I always say to people, know your facts before you take any job.
Yeah.
Find out everything in the background that you can, which I didn't do. Again, I just wanted to manage. I was like, yeah, no problem. I can build this team up. So yeah, I had that struggle with players that were on contract, didn't really want to be at the club, didn't really want to play for me. And that was the first time that I had a team that didn't want to play for me because they was unhappy at the club, if that makes sense. So so Chesham was a roller coaster. You know, we did really, really well. And once the player contracts was up, I sold about 3 players, so I was able to recoup some money. I didn't buy any players. Anybody that came in, I was just more getting 7-dayers in. And I'll explain a 7-day because people talk about probably 7 days. Do you know what a 7-dayer is? I
do, yes.
Yeah. So some people don't. So for the people that don't know what a 7-day is, like it's an approach that you have to give to any player at any level. It doesn't nowadays. It's at any level. It's not just at your respected level to be able to speak to that player with after 7 days, unless the club allows you to speak to them before. But it's a respect thing, basically, from the FA, which they put in place. So I put a few 7-dayers in. A few players came and joined us. That turned our season around. And then we was in playoffs. So it's great in playoffs, doing really well. I don't need to leave. Tony, I don't need to leave. I'm good. I'm happy. But then I get a phone call. I get another phone call. And this is the thing in football. We get a phone call and I'm like, oh my God, do I stay? Do I win this league? Or do I go back to Bishop Stortford because there's a crisis? So the then manager, Mark Simpson, phones me up and says, Gordan, look, I've got a proposition for you. I went, Mark, you know I'm in the playoffs at the minute. He goes, I know, but look, you're the only person that I can trust to help us get out of this. So he's like, how much do you want? I said, it's not really about the money. I said, how much do you want? I'll double your money. I'm like, look, it's not really about the money. I'll double your money and I'll give you bonuses. So I'm like, gee, what, to go back Conference South? Jesus. I said, you know, forget about the money. Let's talk about the club. Let's talk about what players you got. Because throwing money at me is not going to change my mind. Because I was happy where I was and I'm about to either win the league or I'm confident we're going to win the playoffs. So Les Reed's going to be there. We've got this infrastructure. You could be head of this. You can do that. You know, I will help pick the team, but you can do all the interviews. So he basically was like, you can run the show, technically, is what he was saying to me, at Conference South, but I'll be manager by title. So I said, okay, you know what? So I spoke to the management team and I said, well, look, got this phone call. Do you lot think you can win this league without me? Do you think you can get promoted? If I go, you lot stay in charge. I'll speak to the chairman and I'll keep everything the same. I won't take no players. Just everybody stays here and then try and just do what we set out to do. They said, yes, we can do that. So I said, okay, so you're happy for me to go? They went, yeah. So I'm expecting them to say, no, stay. They're like, no, go, man, go. It's all right, we can do this. So I said, okay. So I left. Bishop Stortford was 20th. We finished 7th, just outside the playoffs. So that season. And then Cheshunt finished 14th or 15th or whatever. So way out of it. So that was, you just don't know. I don't know what happened. Something happened. But it didn't work out. So I was at Bishop Stortford. Things was going okay. But then this time I didn't have the bug that I normally have. Oh, I want to go and manage. I was like, I'm happy. Everything's going well. And then I get an SOS phone call, which means someone else calls me up and says, we need your help. We've seen certain things, like you do a lot of things behind the scenes. I'm like, yeah, how do you know? So we've been following you. This is Histon Football Club in the Conference National. So I'm like, oh, what role do you want to give me now? Like, come on, what, the manager's role? I was like, I don't know about all that. I said, I'm happy where I am, I'm okay, do you get what I mean? He said, no, we want to make you CEO. I said, what did you say? Wow. No, we want you to run the football club. I said, you want me to run the football club? Yeah, come and meet us, let's have a chat. So Tony, I'm now thinking, I've never run a football club in my life. Do you know what I mean? The only clubs I've run is football manager clubs. Do you know what I mean? That's all I know now, how to run. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me go in there. Obviously, I have a strategic mind. Obviously, run businesses. I understand how business needs to be run. But then when I met the board, the committee, and everybody like that, and then I did my presentation on what I thought about the club and the homework that I did, it was the right move. It was crazy. So then I gave up my position at Stortford to go to Histon, which was a very, very good learning curve because that taught me different things. Now, prior to that, obviously, I've moved around because I was getting the itchy bug. I wanted to manage. I wanted to progress and get up the ladder and get up the ladder and get up the ladder. So now I've got to the pinnacle, but I'm in a different capacity behind the scenes. Where in my head, I didn't envision that to happen. I didn't think in my head, you know what, I'm going to be able to go and do that. But then, God so good, I had the opportunity to do it. And I learned different traits about the tea lady, the person that worked in the club shop, all the volunteers, all the full-time staff, the people in the gate, the stewards, just every single person, the person in the burger van. Like, I made it a family environment in respect of, we had regular meetings. I made sure everybody felt good. I gave them prizes and thanked them for everything they did. I tried to get to know them personally. Very, very important factors in people management, which you need to have. And I think one of the traits I had as a manager anyway was man management, you know. So I took that into the role, and that enabled me to be successful in what I had to do. But the club had bigger problems than that, which, as I said to you before, do your homework before you go to clubs. Again, I didn't do my homework. Same thing. Went in there, great position, I'm happy. So I've learned again, do your homework. So the message, do your homework before you go to clubs. Ask simple questions. Find out things. Find out what the background is on certain clubs. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we all get excited when you get opportunities. And trust me, I've had a lot of opportunities after getting loads of knockbacks. Remember at the beginning, I told you, I was getting no's. So whenever I got an opportunity, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take it. Instead of sometimes saying, you know what, I'm going to say no to that one. I'm going to say no. But I'm glad I didn't say no. It sounds weird. I'm glad I didn't say no, because it taught me, and I learned lessons in every single role I had. It gained the experience that I now have. So when you look at my CV, the amount of wins, the trophies that I've had, the promotions, the clubs I've helped behind the scenes, it shaped me to the person that I am today, if that makes sense. And I think that's so important and so fundamental in football. But I love nothing more than coaching and managing. I think there's nothing that beats that. So working behind the scenes was great to understand what the mechanisms goes behind the club. And that helped me to be able to do what I was able to do going forward. So Histon was a great opportunity. It was great. And I really, really enjoyed it. And after Histon, then I had the opportunity again, which was weird, to go back to Bishop Stortford in another role. So I went back to Bishop Stortford, but it wasn't really on the coaching side. It was more like scouting, helping behind the scenes and stuff like that. So it's sort of like transferring what I was doing at Histon to Stortford. So then when the opportunity now to manage at Stortford came about as first team manager, I'm like, well, I've got to take this. The manager's left. He had gone to Chelmsford. The board said, look, are you interested? I went, it depends what applicants come in. But I said, I know the club inside out. Maybe it's my time to manage you in the Conference South. So they went, right, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to give you the same budget. The same budget that the last manager has. But we need you to go through the process, because we can't just give you the job. We're gonna advertise it, and everyone's got to apply for it. So I had to apply for it like everybody else. So everybody else believes I was given it. I wasn't given the job. They said to me, no, you've got to interview for it. So I did. So I said, okay, I put my application in. I did my presentation. I went through all the things I had to do. And then I was given the job. So, but at this stage, the club was in the process of getting sold. Just my luck again. Yeah. You get another opportunity, the club's getting sold. So finances changed. So what I was promised at the beginning wasn't what I got when the season started. So what do? Do you go, okay, you know, I'm going to leave now? Again, oh, here's Gordan, he's off again because he's not happy about something. So I thought, no, I'm sticking this out. This time, I've got a long affiliation with this club. I've been involved in this club since 2002, 2003. It's 2016, 2017. I've been at this club a long period of time. And, you know, I think it's my time to manage this club and try and stabilise it. The plan was to stabilise it, then push on the next season, because I knew financially we could not compete with the likes of the Ebbsfleets and all of the teams at the top. Do you know what I mean? Your Chelmsfords. I think it was Maidstone, Maidenhead. We had all of the big hitters then before they went into the National League. So I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to do the best I can. So I had the lowest budget in the league. So managers talk to each other. So you find out what everybody's on. Then you're like, right, okay. I'm in the Conference South and I've got the same sort of money that step 4 clubs have got. How's that possible? So when I spoke to the board, I had to try and get the fans to, support, get some money in. So then you're now fundraising. So I'm fundraising where the club the season before and the seasons before that never had to do that.
Interesting.
But in my tenure, I've had to deal with that. So I'm like, right, okay, I've got to deal with this. I've got to put a team together. I've got to pay them the lowest. They can go to anywhere else. So the good thing is players came and played for me because they knew me. So I got the best players I could get. And they were underpaid. Because they could have gone elsewhere and got double the money I gave them. But they came and played for me. And that was the respect factor, which I think was fundamental. So that was great. We did well. We did okay. And then someone bought out the club. And the person that bought the club wanted to manage the team. And I went, but you own the club. Like, well, why do you want to manage the club? Oh, and I remember weeks before he'd called me, like offering me players. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. He's calling me, he's offering me players. Why? I knew who he was. I was like, all right, no problem. And then I phoned him like a couple of weeks ago because I had heard a rumour. So I had a little rumour that you're going to be probably buying out the club. Is that correct? Well, I've got a consortium, Gordan, and that. But look, you keep doing what you're doing. I've got a plan for you. Like, how much was the budget you got? He goes, you got that budget? He goes, mate, I don't know how you're where you are with that budget. It's ridiculous. You're doing fantastic on that. Jesus, just keep going. Once the takeover is done, we're going to sit down. We're going to sort it all out. I'm going to give you the right budget that you can push on. Okay, great, no problem. If that's what you're saying, hopefully you do buy the club. No problem. Silly of me to say such a thing. So he's come in. We've had this game, and leading up to the week, something was wrong. And I was thinking, you know what? Before I'm pushed, I better leave because I can see something's going to happen. But I thought I owed it to the players not to do that. So I was like, no, forget it. We're going to train for the week. We're going to do whatever. We had just got a good draw. We had beaten Welling United. We had a draw against East Thurrock. We're now about to play, who is it? Whitehawk.
Mm-hmm.
So Richard Monday, he was the manager there. So I remember that he'd come in, he had just taken over, loads of money, Jesus Christ. So I've got to lost that game 3-0. Now, we'd lost this game and I was thinking to myself, this guy's in the stands. He hasn't spoken to me yet. Something's going on. Someone quickly whispered to me, Gordan, they bought the club. They want to take it over. They're going to get rid of you. I said, nah, I'm not going to have that. So game's done. Chairman's called me, said, oh, someone wants to speak to you. Knew who it was, obviously. Yeah, what's going on? Gordan, well, there's going to be a few changes. And I said, nah, look. I said, look, if you're going to take it over, you're going to run it, then just run it. It's not a problem. No. We want to keep you part of it. I said, oh, so I'll stay as manager. Well, no, not exactly. What I'm going to do is me and my mate, we're going to run it. And we'll have you on the coaching team if you want. You can be part of the coaching team. So let me get this right. So I'm coming from being a manager. Now you want me to join your coaching team, but you're going to manage the team. I said, nah. So I said, I'll walk away. You lot can have it. It's not a problem. It's football. I wish you all the best. Do you get what I mean? I said, we're outside the relegation zone. I've done the best I can with limited resources. Take it on. If you lot have got this money that you're promising, you should be able to kick on and do well. So I said, oh, okay, Gordan, no hard feelings, all of that. So I said, yeah, no problem, no hard feelings. So then I left the club. And then, I think everyone knows where they are now. But my point in what I'm saying here is this, that in football, it's not all about money and not everything's guaranteed. And I think the lesson that I have learned there was you should always follow your gut instinct. You should always follow your gut. I should have left 2 weeks ago at a principle, but because I had felt I'd left other clubs before for other opportunities. Now I'm leaving here with no other opportunities. So I'm leaving to go nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm now leaving at a principle because you're about to hang me and I can't have that. So I'm like, nah, I can't be seen to be getting hanged. Even though the press picked up on it, they realised what was going on. They knew. I just said, look, at the end of the day, I'll give somebody else the opportunity to take the club forward. There's more investment coming in, and it's good for the football club to move forward. You know what I mean? So yeah. So that was my Stortford story, and then after that, I took a break until one of my mates took over at Northwood and said, oh, I need some help. Come and help me out. And I think for the last few seasons, I've just been coaching, helping teams out and stuff like that, because I've just been like, my son was born. I wanted to be at home. As you heard of my story, I've come from playing straight into coaching, straight into management, straight into being CEO, straight into going back to Stortford. Just the roller coaster of club. And it's club experience, fantastic. But somewhere along the line, you have to have the stability. And as I said, Stortford was my plan was 3-4 years, I want to take them somewhere. But because I wasn't allowed to do that, it stopped my final plan, if that makes sense. So I wasn't looking for another opportunity. No opportunities came. Well, opportunities came my way, and I actually said no for once in my life. And other people phoning me up, and I was like, nope, I'm staying. Nope, I'm staying. No, I'm staying. I've been saying yes all the time to new opportunities, but for once, I'm going to say no. So I said, no. I want to stay here. I've got a good affiliation with the club. I get on with the fans. It's local to me. I don't want to keep chopping and changing. Do you know what I mean? I want to build something. I want to build a legacy behind me to say, at this club, like I did at Brimsdown, I wanted to build that legacy at Stortford, but I wasn't able to do that. And that's football. These things happen. You live and learn. And I think football is all about experiences and learning, definitely learning from things. You know, in hindsight, people go, would you change anything? Maybe I would have stayed at Cheshunt and won the league. Maybe that would have been the one when I went to Stortford the next time. But then I was able to go Stortford and save them from getting relegated. So it's a double-edged sword, isn't it, really? If I didn't go there, I believe they probably would have got relegated. I'm not saying this because of me, but they was not doing well. So hindsight's great. You can look back, but I never regret anything. Never regret anything you've done. Always look forward. And I always say this, you can only control the controllable. You can't control the uncontrollable. And that's one factor I want everybody to understand in football. When there's opportunities that knock on your door, and yes, I took opportunities that came my way because they were step up. I didn't take sideward steps, lower steps. I was going that way. So from my point of view, I was like, well, have to take it because it's a step up. Have to take it because it's another step up. Have to take it because there's another step up. Sometimes you can take your time and build yourself up there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that I would say that I've learned. And yeah, I've just been enjoying it. I've just been coaching, helping people out, enjoying that. And everyone keeps asking, when you're coming back to manage? But how I've got myself now, I've got all this experience, I've got all of the things that are behind me. It's about the right club at the right time and the right position at the right time. But to be able to build a legacy is important. I'm not going to go to a club for the sake of going to a club just because there's an opportunity there. And I've had, since I've been away from Stortford, I've had 6 offers and I've not taken one of them. 2 of them I agreed to, and they went with someone else last minute, but I'll do them the honourable thing and not mention their names. But yeah, I had 2 clubs who offered me a position and then reneged, but they know who they are, so that's fine.
Wow.
So that's what's happened there. So that gives you I just thought I'd give you an insight into how it is. Like that, I thought, yeah, I'm reaching for the stars. I'm in a football league, happy days, and coaching abroad in Norway, to then going to step 6, learning my trade, not being snobbish, building things up, having my coaching ethoses, which I think is so important when people talk about football. Have your ethoses. And I've always said it. I believe if you're a manager, like some managers prefer to just have coaches around them, but I like to show that I can coach because I've been a coach. Does that make sense? And to be a coach, you then understand certain things, and your players then respect you differently if you're able to show them things and show that you can go out on the field and go, yes, this is what I want, not just tell them. Anyone can pick a team, Fish. Anyone can pick a team. But the love of coaching, setting up drills, preparing, going through things, seeing what you set out for those players, working on a match day, there's no better feeling than that.
So while at Brimsdown, so we had quality players. We had quality players at Brimsdown. The likes of Ashley Taylor Forbes, untouchable, skills for fun, was called Fulbinio. You know, trust me, there's a reason for that, because he could just hurt players in an instant with his skills, his step overs, his finishing as well. Very, very good player. You know, when we had others, you know, the likes of Danny Bleach, Mervyn Abraham, you know, who's experienced in non-league, everyone knows who he is. Gavin Taylor was a leader in the centre midfield with Reece Prestige, who eclipsed and went on to play in a conference national, should have played in the Football League, but I don't think they could have afforded him for the sheer fact that obviously he's got a good job, and you know, if he wanted to, he could play in the Football League, definitely. You know, technically sound, you know, got vision, can make things happen. So he was a very, very good player. Reece Prestige. You know, we had the likes of Michael Pele, who was the utility guy, could play anywhere, popped up with some very, very important goals for the team. And then we had Darren Reed, who played at right back, could play right wing, can actually play up front as well. Very, very good player. You know, better than the level. He was a player that was better than the level that he was at. And then we had Scott Atkinson, who was just, he's a guy that, it's sad because, you know, he had come from Stevenage, went to St Albans, scored goals for fun, 30 odd a season. You know, he's scoring bicycle kicks. He's just a player that I looked at, and unfortunately for him, obviously he'd been at Dagenham, Redbridge, Bishop Stortford as well. But he just, things happen in life. And I think it was one of them things that he chose other areas to go down. But you know what? He was a good player and he done fantastic for me while I was there. So I couldn't complain, you know. And we had others. Trust me, we had like Neil Thompson, we had Ricardo Montebello. I remember I had Ricardo Montebello at both Bishop Stortford and Dagenham Redbridge before he went and played at Malta. Now he was 15. He's the youngest ever player for Bishop Stortford in their history to be played at 15. So that shows you that. And then he came and played for us at Brimsdown, being young as well, scoring for fun. Couldn't touch him. Aaron Churchhouse, solid player in there, proved his point, did what he had to do. We just had a lot of good, you know, players that had the right attitude, and that was important. Had the right attitude and understood the importance of knowing their roles, understood the factor of what in-game management really meant. Because I don't think a lot of people understand what in-game management really means. But, you know, that's football for you, Fish. That's football for you. And it's really, you know, I could speak about a lot of my experiences in lots of different clubs of players that I've been with and stuff like that. You know, I remember being at Northwood as well. There was the likes of Evans, Kouassi. He was with me at Bishop Stortford. You know, you couldn't touch him. He could go past players with ease. But then I came across a club, Bedford Town. John Taylor got me in. Fantastic football club, I've got to be honest, fantastic football club. They are on the up, definitely on the up. Just been unfortunate, I think, last season with regards to what had happened. But the season that I was there, the side done fantastic, finished fourth in the league. We had a fantastic trophy run. You know, took the club to the furthest in the beam, which is a third round proper. Lost that to Chesterfield, which was a sickener, an 89th minute. You know, but at Bedford, you had some really, really good players there. You know, players that were dedicated, that could easily play higher. You know, he had the likes of Ben Ford. You know, Fordy, good player, good technical player. A player on his day, I remember we played against Aldershot in the trophy, and he actually bossed that game. Absolutely bossed it. Then you got James Peters, JP. Now JP, he's a player that, you know, he'll do anything for you. Play at the back, play midfield. Even if you put him up front, he'll play up front. But he's a winner. He's a winner. Tough tackling player. Solid. and technical. People don't see the technical side of his game, but he has got a football brain. He's able to open the game up and do certain things. So he's not just your typical rough and ragged defensive midfield player. He's also a person that can make things happen, spray the balls, control it. And he was captain as well for some point. You know, we had some other good players in the team. Dan Walker, you know, his pace was frightening on his day. Couldn't touch him. You know, we had Jermaine at the time before he went on to, you know, before Pastures knew he was scoring for fun. There were so many good players there. You know, Ebby, good player in there as well. Mason at the back, good player. Ashton Grant, another good player that I looked at and I thought, yeah, decent. Connor Furlong, quality player, good skills, hurt players for fun. And then we had underrated players like Dean Dummett. You know, he went on to, I think he's playing for Barton Rovers now and a few other clubs, but you know, he was just your solid Mr. Reliable, you know, cut his head open for you and do what needs to be done. We had Gavin Hoyt there as well, obviously very experienced player, you know, very solid at the back. You know, so we've had some really, really good players, and I would say a lot of the players there were good enough to play higher. A lot of them had come from other places and proven their point. You know, so I think my experience at Bedford was good to be a coach there and work with these talented boys and give them the best season that they've had for a long time. So I was happy that I could be part of helping to contribute to them going forward and being successful. It was unfortunate losing that to Corby in the semi-finals of the playoffs, but that's football. These things happen. You can't win every game. So yeah, I remember that time and I thought, you know what, they were a good bunch of players that were there at the football club, and I know that Bedford Town Football Club are going to be on the up. So Fish, another one of the most important things I always would say, when you start speaking about your backroom staff, you've also got to remember the medical team. And we had some fantastic sports therapists while I was at Brimsdown, while I was at Cheshunt. So I had Bex, Rebecca Cornish, I had Dr. Galtrey, Charlotte Galtrey, and they were fantastic. They were fantastic. Trust me, without them, a lot of players would not have got back when I needed them to be back to do what I needed them to do. So they're a very important part of the jigsaw that we had for our success. So it isn't just about on the training field and, you know, what tactics you're going to do. It's also about the medical team being able to work alongside you concurrently to be able to make sure that these players are to their maximum potential, and then when they're doing their rehab, them coming back at the right time. And those girls 100% were strict, very, very professional. You know, they came with me to Cheshunt, they was with me at Brimsdown. You know, I've got nothing but admiration and respect for them. I also had Colin Taylor at Bishop Stortford, very, very knowledgeable. I remember him. He used to be more reserve team physio at the time. So he's someone that I've got a huge respect for. And, you know, the main physio at Bishop Stortford Football Club, he's done really, really well. And then I've had other people as well, you know, who I'd like to mention as well. Sam Roblet, he was at Bedford Town, very, very good physio, works very hard with the players to get them ready. So I would definitely say that the medical team is so important. Then I've had the likes of Wendy and Jess, other two good physios that have worked for me in the past. But genuinely, what the message is, Fish, is that without such a good medical team behind you that's able to ensure your players are fit enough to go out there and perform, looking after them, massaging, ensuring that they're doing their rehab properly, they're not cheating, and they're not coming back too soon. That's a hard trait. So I want to thank them, because they was obviously massive in a lot of the things that I was able to achieve and the team was able to achieve. So you should never ever forget your medical team. So important.
So now time for your questions, because you know what, I've given you all of the history, the backstories, and I've seen you smiling. So you've heard a lot of probably crazy things, but yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible story, if I'm honest with you. I need like a minute to like digest everything you just said because it's so incredible. I mean, I haven't heard a story like it. Jesus. So when you first went into managing your own team, how hard was it for you personally to find a coaching staff or a network, should we call it?
It wasn't difficult. I think my first role, I had people that I trusted, very important in football. Rudy Gahagan and Mervyn Abraham. They were my coaching team that have been with me at a lot of the clubs that I've been at. And the only jobs they wasn't at with me was probably my last job. So, and Glenn Mason as well, Mace. But yeah, I've had a coaching team that's been the same because Rudy, I'd met him when I was a player. And I said to myself, when I was in non-league, I went, he's probably the best coach that has coached me in non-league since coming from the pro ranks. Undoubtedly the best. You know, he teaches me things all the time. Even now, he's on my case 24/7. Do you get what I mean? About things and get yourself back in, do this, and you're better than this. And he's very encouraging and very supportive and very about, he does stuff for the FA now. He's a student. I'm really proud of him. He's on his journey doing fantastic. But Rudy Gahagan, fantastic coach, someone that really deserves to be coaching in the Football League, 100%. So yeah, I had him, Mervyn Abraham, fantastic player, good coach, knowledgeable, knows his football. He's a non-league legend. He'd tell you his stats. I'll tell you his stats. His stats for goal scoring was just unreal, crazy. But he knows the game. He knows the game. And he's someone I trust. He's a good friend of mine. But it isn't just about friendships. It's about people you trust and you know are going to have your back through thick and thin. So important. And they're not going to try and stab you in the back, if that makes sense. Because there's a lot of people in football that are out for their self. I go into a job, and if I'm an assistant manager, I'm not trying to get the manager's job. I would rather go for another manager's job elsewhere and leave the manager where he is. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Instead of going to stab him in the back and go, if he gets the sack, I'm going to jump in there. No, you've brought me in out of good faith. I'm going to come and give you the best job I can give you. And then if there's an opportunity elsewhere and I feel I want to go and do it, I'll speak to you man to man and say, look, fancy managing, so I'm going to go elsewhere. That's what I'll do. And that's what I had done. So that's why you've never heard a story of me being an assistant manager and then being manager. Even though at Clapton, the manager was like, look, I want to take a back seat. You do it because they need to hear a different voice. They need to see an ex-professional coming in, doing things. So that's a different kettle of fish. I haven't intentionally got in and said, I want his role. So yeah, trust is so important, and having the right people around you, key.
How hard is it so if you didn't have them guys around you, how hard is it generally to find a good support network to help you within them?
Listen, they were gold dust. Them guys were amazing, and they have been amazing. I think, as I said, because I know them, I trust them.
Yeah.
But then in football, you get to meet other people, and I've met people along the way in the journeys and stuff like that, on coaching courses and other things, and football functions and stuff like that. So I know other coaches that you can relate to, and they think the same as you. And I've always given new coaches an opportunity and brought them in and said, look, I'll make you part of my team because I think you're good enough, and giving something back. And I think that's so important in the game, that you're able to bring in people to develop them, not criticize them. I always believe that, any coach you bring in, you should be able to look to develop them. Be honest to them. Of course, certain things aren't happening, but you wouldn't try to do it in front of players. If there's things that need to be improved, we have a management meeting, we look at what we do. I'm not saying I'm the best coach in the world. There could be sessions I've done. And to be fair, this is why I love Rudy. He's probably come to me loads of times and said, that session, I don't know if it was effective with the boys for that reason, whether I agree or disagree. 9 times out of 10, I'm still right. But
there we go. You're back.
I'm frozen. Okay, there you go. Don't know what's going on with these things here. But yeah, so I think you don't win anything. You can't be solo. I've spoke about solo stuff all the way, what I've done. But without my management team, a lot of the things that I achieved I could have not achieved without them. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, and I want to give them a big shout out because they've been on the journey along the way with me. And I think that's so fundamental and important because without them, a lot of the trophies would have been difficult to obtain. And it can't be a one-man show. I don't care whatever any manager says, from Mourinho to whoever, they'll be honest and say that to you, that you need to have a backbone. You need to have people behind the scenes helping you out. You need to have a strong coaching network. We win together, we lose together. Simple as that. The same as the players.
It's so true. I mean, you went through a lot on those, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
And young coaches, as a young coach as you was, it's hard to just, it's not hard. I mean, it's easy to just go, okay, sod it, I'm not doing it no more. So how important is it
to
keep striving, keep going, and as a young coach, how important is that?
You've touched on a fantastic point. You need to have a never say die attitude. Factor. You know, we go into my brand, which is believe and achieve. It's probably here, you can see it, yeah? Everything in my mindset is about, if I believe in something, I'm going to achieve it. And that is what I try and say to people all the time. And I'll say to any young coach, you're going to get no's, you're going to get knocks. You're not everybody's cup of tea. And I've not been everybody's cup of tea. So I've had to look at the right opportunity at the right time will come my way. So I won't give up. I'll keep applying. I'll keep positive. I'll keep trying to go after things. And then hopefully, eventually, someone's going to give me the opportunity. Someone's going to see something in me and think, yes, I want him to manage my football club. Or I want him to come and coach my football team or join my management team. That is important. It's so important. But you can't get disillusioned. Football is one of them games that you need to be mentally strong. And that's one of the biggest things I say to people. It isn't about your ability, it's about your mindset, how mentally strong you are to go through things when you get knocked down, about bouncing back up. Because you're going to get knocks, you're going to get things. Listen, when I said I was losing games, sometimes I was asking myself the question, can you really do this? You're getting slapped up every week. Are you a good manager or are you not? Luckily, I was like, I have to retrain my mindset to be positive and show that, you know, I do believe in myself and I believe in my management team to make sure we can get ourselves out of a situation. You know, I've been fortunate enough to be able to set records and do well, but not by myself. I had good people around me, but it was me that had to go and put us in that position. It was me that had to go and apply for the positions to be able to then bring the management team and make us do what I believed I knew my team could do. So I think the advice going back to any young coaches or managers is don't give up. Keep striving. It's not an easy road. Sometimes it's a long road. Opportunities come, and as I've said before, you've got to take them, but you've got to be smart and you've got to look at if they're the right opportunity. That's one thing I will say. Make sure you get the right opportunities. And it's hard to identify that because when you're young, like I was, and I was young in the game, I was just taking opportunities because I was like, I'm going higher. So that's all I care about. It looks good on my CV. I've been here, at this level. But then it gets to a point where you've got to show continuity, stability, and growth and building something. Because all the best managers and all the managers that go on, they're building stuff at their football club. But as you see now, football's hire and fire. So you haven't even got time for that. So the mindset was, I don't know how long I'm going to be there, so I better take an opportunity because I might not get another opportunity.
Did you, at the time, did you have like a mentor who would help you with your decisions?
So from my playing days, I had Errol McKellar. He was like my biggest advocate and still is now, obviously with my football management, on my case all the time about get yourself back in. We need to get you in the league now. You need to get in the league managing. You need to do what you've got to do. But in the first place, get yourself back in at a club doing well. So Errol McKellar was definitely one of my mentors, and he helped me in football. You know, he helped me in my trials when I was a player. So yeah, he was someone that really, you know what I mean, motivated me. But mainly I motivated myself. I got my head down and just, you know, had to have that tunnel vision of I am going to do this no matter what.
So the days you was losing every week,
Oh, Jesus, thanks for that.
But it's all a learning curve, isn't it?
I loved it. You know what I mean? It sounds weird. Well, ask the question. Yeah.
So
when
you was losing,
every week,
and your mentality is that, damn, is this right for me? Is this what I should be doing? Should I go back to playing? How much has that taught you to be the coach or manager you are now?
It taught me everything, because it's easy just to come out of just, okay, I'm not doing this no more because it's hard or because we're losing all the time. It's somebody else's fault. It was no one's fault, but my fault. You know what I mean? I've got to look at that, because with the success, I'm taking the plaudits, aren't I? When I look at my trophy cabinet, I'm going to be like, well, I did that. So when I was losing, I was like, well, how do I fix this? What do I do to change a defeat into a draw, into a win? And the key thing for me was looking at myself first, looking at what I needed to change. So it's the fundamentals, how I spoke to players, how I took training, what we did, how much time we spent on specific things in training, how early I got players in on a match day, you know, to do our pre-match, because there were things that I didn't say before that we, you know, added little antidotes like pre-match meals, get everybody in together, get that harmony, get everybody in, making them feel important. It's so, and that is just building that camaraderie of all the boys in together. So key having that bond. So, you know, little anecdotes like that helped. Going out as a team for meals, like, you know, going out to bars or whatever, just all of those sort of things as a team, as a squad. So those things were implemented. That changed the mentality. That made us one. That allowed us to be together. And I think once you became together and you was a strong bond, it was hard to beat us and break us down, because we knew we were sort of invincible in that manner, because we knew we had each other's back. You know, so that was the biggest thing. But that came by learning, by doing the job and me questioning my philosophies and changing a few things. Not to long ball. I refused to do that. I wanted to still play football, but play football the right way. Did I play through the thirds? If we can. If we can play further up the field, then we'll play further up the field. If we was going to play no risk at the back, we'll play no risk at the back for the first 15 minutes so that we can settle into the game. Whatever the philosophy or the ethos, you need to have it. You need to have an identity. Very, very important in football. If you don't have an identity, then you're not going to do anything. And I think at the beginning, we never had an identity. The identity was, you're losing, just turn up. What formation is going to work with a group of players I've got? So it's just about understanding each player's strengths and weaknesses and putting them in positions that was going to be right for them. And a lot of the things was understanding where players fit and what they was able to do and what their capabilities were. And that was one of the biggest things that I looked at, of like, what could he do? Can he play here? And just moving players around. And I think that was one of the key things, putting them in the positions and talking to them. You know, we did lots of one-to-ones. You know, I was always big on having one-to-ones with players, having team meetings, but just finding out more about them, more about their personal life. So having that personal touch, you know, you can't beat that. That is what I'm saying about people and man management. Without that element, you can't be successful. I don't care who you are. You could be the best coach in the world. But if you don't have people management skills, you're not able to relate to your players and you're not able to talk to them, then you can't do anything. Simple as that.
100%. I think stuff like the pre-match meals and the going out is so underrated. A lot of people don't see the benefit in it. But I think if you're young and you're still trying to learn, and we're all learning, even you, I'm sure you can agree on that. Everyone's still
100%. No, listen, I'm learning all the time.
Exactly. So I think it's important that people kind of adopt that into their game if they want to learn and they want to do better. And I think you done that perfectly. It shows in your record. When you was at step six, right?
Yeah.
How hard was it to put in everything you wanted out of the players within 1 or 2 hours a week of training?
Yeah, it was difficult because sometimes you're training on little pieces of grass in certain areas with a little bit of light, and if you had AstroTurf back then on the sandy pitches when it wasn't like different type of 3G. And it was one of them. So what I used to try and do is I used to try and get the boys in earlier on a match day and go through some of our sessions before the match started. So it was fresh in their minds. So we would do what training we could do, but then I would come in and just do more walkthroughs, way before the other team came. That's why I implemented having some breakfast, doing things we had to do, refueling the body, rehydrating, making sure they were relaxed, getting their massages, having the big screen TV on and just having them bonding. But then we'll spend, let's just say 30 minutes on working on, our shape, what we was going to do in the game, and that's it. So that's how I combated it at that level. And I've sort of taken that through all the levels that I've gone through as well. When I know my time is not there for me on the training field, I'll make sure come match day. You can't really do it on a Tuesday, but on a Saturday, especially home games, I was able to do that.
Which is incredible. Going into your coaching philosophy now, if you had to pick one thing out of your coaching philosophy that is the integral part of it, what would it be?
Everybody says hard work, and it is hard work. But one of the things in my philosophy is everybody understanding their positions. Right? And what I mean by that, people are going to be like, okay, I don't get it. Hard work, it's got to be hard work. Of course it's got to be hard work. That is a given. If you don't work hard, then why are you playing the game?
It's true.
Why are you playing the game? Like, let's not waste time. But for me is, do you understand your role? Do you understand your job? You're a left back. What do I expect you to do? So it's going through the procedures of every single player on that pitch, from a right back, from the goalkeeper to the right back to the centre halves, to your midfielders, depending on what formation you're going to play, to your front players and your wide players. Each individual knowing what's expected of them per match, depending on who you're playing. Sometimes you might have to adapt, depending on if it's the FA Cup, FA Trophy, even in Step 6, FA Vars. You're dealing with all of that. You're having to sort out, making sure you're ready for your opposition. But yeah, one of the biggest things in my philosophy is my players understanding their roles and responsibilities.
It's crazy because I don't think a lot of non-league managers do that kind of stuff. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few people outside of the podcast, and not a lot of people go through them kind of specifics. They think, okay, we're going to do it in training, and I expect you to remember it 4 days later.
Yeah. No.
And I think it's just standards that need to be set from the FA. They need to kind of teach that into the coaching qualifications.
Yeah, I think, and the thing is, having done them, and anybody listening to this or watching on both, they would know it is, you are coached by the book. They go, this is the process for you to pass it, which you have to do to have the qualifications, which is great. And I'll say it's great, but it's not the be and end all. I'm going to be honest to you. It's not the be and end all, because coaching is about experience and knowledge. Knowledge is power. What you do on a training field, what you watch in games, that you're active in, not what you watch on TV, what you watch with your team, and how your team trains and how your team plays. You're going to learn a lot more off the back of that, especially if you video your games, especially if you video your training sessions and you watch it back, because then you know what you do, you eliminate excuses. And one of the biggest things I used to do, and what I still do, and I've always done it, is I would be watching games. I'd come home and I'll be watching the games. I'll watch training sessions and I'll have a look, make notes and be like, right, okay, well, we could have done this different, could have done that different. You know what, maybe I should have not made a sub at that time. I made it too soon. I'm critiquing myself. So straight away, I'm not even looking at the players. I'm looking at what I could have done differently, even in a win. Even in a win, not always in a defeat or a draw. In a win, I've also looked at, well, what could I have done differently to make this more convincing win, especially the tight games. And how do we improve going forward? So I think one of the key things, it's hard for me to tell the FA what to do, because they're going to do what they're going to do, and they'll continue to do that. But I would say to any up and coming coaches and anybody that's looking into it, yes, go and do your badges, of course. By all means, I'm not going to be sitting here and say don't do it, but I'm saying to you, experience is fundamental. Knowledge is power. Without knowledge, without the practical, because you don't want to be sitting in classrooms going through things and someone's on the board just talking through it. Then you're doing your exams and then you're like having to do it. So now that's why they've changed the syllabus in coaching to say, if you're doing your UEFAs now, you're doing it at your clubs. So you're at your clubs, you're doing your sessions, they're your hours. So all of them hours are going to be collating to your final assessment. And even your final assessment, so your assessment over the time for you to be able to pass it. That's how it is now. So they're making it more practical based, opposed to how it used to be, where you'd have to be in a classroom, do a few sessions, and then do a final assessment at the end. It's a process over the years. So they're extending it longer, but you get more experience. So it makes you a better coach, definitely. So yeah, it's definitely still worth doing, but as I said, knowledge and experience is power. Without that, you struggle.
No, of course. I mean, we've spoken quite a bit ever since I popped up to you, and you've learned a lot about me. I've learned a lot about you and how I got to know you and how I got to be honored to meet someone like you.
Fish, you honor me. Now you're killing me. Now you're killing me. Yeah, there's no need for this. There's no need. I'll pay you later. I'll pay you later. If this was, I'll pay you later. It's fine. No, I'm kidding. Carry on.
Like I coach under a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
So I'm learning.
Who, by the way, is a very, very good manager. And I know that you're interviewing me, but I just want to highlight him for a minute. He's someone I know. Rootsy's a phenomenal individual, first and foremost, a gentleman. He's a guy that I know I can see progressing within the football ranks. And I can see you and him going as far as possible, going into the levels that I've been at and doing really, really, really well, because he's methodical, he knows his stuff, his attention to detail second to none. He's got a heart of gold, but he's a winner. He's a winner. As well as being a winner, he likes to make sure that he looks at all of the key details, regardless of the division that he's in, to do well and give the players the best opportunity to progress, do well and win. Simple as that. Do you get what I mean? And give coaches the opportunity to flourish and do what they're good at doing, and giving them a platform to show what they can do, like you have been doing. And obviously you've got a bright future. You know your stuff. Yes, you're doing your podcast, but you're more than this. And as I said, this is fantastic. It's a great platform. More people should look at what you're doing and do it, because getting people talking about their experiences is second to none. And I think that's so credible, and you should be proud of yourself.
No, thank you. And I'm sure Rootsy would watch this and smile.
Yeah, listen, he was a beast when he played. Very, very calm individual, always, methodical in the way he played, calm under pressure. And he was a leader, he was captain. So he's that sort of person that was always going to be a manager. And I can see him doing really, really well. Trust me.
No, I agree.
And that's not about friendship. That's about what I see. I've got a lot of friends that can't manage.
No, I agree. He's a great human. But today's about you. So you've gone into.
Yeah, I was going to say, listen. Sometimes you can speak about yourself, and we've done that. I think we've given ourselves some good time. But sometimes it's good to acknowledge others. And I think one of the other things that I do as well, which you know about, is giving it back for mental health and stuff like that, because I think it's a massive thing. And I think when you are able to identify people in crisis and people suffering, I think it's that sort of thing about, we are all human beings. None of us are perfect. We all go through tough times. We all go through days where we're like unsure about certain things. But mental strength, as much as we possibly can have, will get us through them dark times. I always say, the pain you're feeling today is the strength you're going to have come tomorrow. Yeah, because pain is only temporary. It lasts a minute, an hour, a day, maybe a year or two, but eventually that pain will pass. If you give up or quit, that pain of failure and disappointment will last with you forever. So one of them key things there is so important for people to understand. Yeah, so if you truly believe in yourself and you have faith, you can achieve whatever you want in this world. Life's not easy. And we all go, and I said, and like we've gone through a pandemic, which no one saw coming. It's been very difficult for people to adapt to what we've had to go through. Do you get what I mean? But I feel that it's one of them things that's underrated, and there's a lot of people suffering, and we don't know. We don't know they're suffering. They've got a smile on their face, they're okay, but behind closed doors, they're not all right. So we need to be an ear. We need to be able to make ourselves available to listen. And sometimes just be there for people that want to speak to us. And I think if we're able to do that, we can save a lot more lives than what we're losing. Because some people find it difficult to talk to close ones and loved ones, but independent people, it's great. And I think with the football fraternity, it's really good that we all get together. Yes, it's a competitive sport, and yes, everybody is vying for different positions. But if you can get together, if you've got problems, it's great to speak to each other because we all understand what we're going through.
As coaches and managers, especially in the younger generation, we've kind of become idols to them. And we're like the older brother kind of material to them, and they can come and talk to us if you give them the platform to do so. Yeah. So as a coach and manager of yourself, how many players have you had? You probably have a massive list, but how many players have you had that they feel like they can come and talk to you on a man-to-man basis?
Yeah, listen, I've had loads. I've had loads that have like been at my wedding. I've been to their wedding. We've been close. You know, I'll give you an example. There was a player I had. His name's Gavin Taylor. I'm sure he's going to be excited when he watches this. But he played for me at both Brimsdown and Chesham. He was captain. And I remember he used to always come to me and speak to me about philosophies of the game and what he thought, even when he didn't agree with me. But one thing he never did was in front of the other players, he never highlighted the things he wasn't happy with. He always left it until we had a one-to-one because I didn't agree with that. I thought this, I thought that. But he'd always give 100%. Always gave me 100%. But always was, testing my knowledge, asking me questions, wanting to know why I did this and this worked and how that came about, and loved this and loved that. And very, very encouraging. He was a player that I actually had played against, and I was like, I need that guy to play for me because he's a good player. So I'm going to give him his kudos. He's one. Reece Prestige was a player that, he's renowned now for playing in the conference. He played for me at Bishop Stortford, Dagenham, Redbridge, Chesham, Brimsdown. He was a player that he was a winger when he came to me. I made him a centre midfield player, but he also wanted to learn about playing in centre mid, where to drop the shoulder, how to find space, how to play in the pocket, how to spray balls. And he was out in the training field all the time, working on these sort of things, speaking to me about things as well. And he went on to good things as well. Listen, there's so many, from Bradley Johnson to Wesley Thomas, who's now at Notts County but was at Birmingham, played for Blackpool, played in, Steve Morrison, who played in the Premier League. Like, I could name so many. Aaron McLean. There's too many. There's too many players that I can speak about that I think are players that speak. And obviously, there's a forward that recently has just come back from Cyprus, Jermaine Assay, fantastic goal scorer. He's a player that now, I think, hopefully, after this pandemic, clubs want to sign him. Do you know what I mean? He's got 24. Very, very good player. Scores goals for fun. But yeah, he's always picking my brains, always wanting to do better. His first touch is immaculate. He's finishing on point. Big player. I think he's going to be going places, definitely.
It's incredible. And I knew you had a massive list.
Yeah, there's too many. Listen, and I've missed loads of people. People are going to cry and go, "Oh, why didn't you mention me?" But I could be all day. There's a lot of players, and there is a lot of players. As I said, I spoke about Mervyn and the amount of things that he had done. Aaron Scott at the back, I call him Rio. He was so composed. He played really, really well. Good non-league player. Do you know what I mean? There's too many. I could keep going. But as I said, a lot of those players, not just saying they became friends, but they became students of the game, and we was able to converse about the beautiful game. And I think that's one of the biggest things, when you can be able to discuss what's so important in this game that we love.
It's so true. I agree 110%. So you've gone into managing, you've kind of gone now into a different part of a football club. So you're not coaching anymore. You're not managing anymore. Well, you are in a way, but you've become CEO. Now, you was the youngest CEO in history.
Oh, you've done your homework there, innit? Jesus
Christ.
I
have to.
I can see you're the man. That's what I'm saying. I'm so proud of you. You've gone about and done that. I've tried to forget about all that. I just done my job. That was it.
No, but you was the youngest CEO at the age of 30.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel as a human?
You know, when you set records like that, at the time you don't think about it. I'll be honest. I don't think about it because I've got a job to do and I can't show that I'm young. You know, you can't go in there because you need to gain and earn respect without demanding respect. You know, you can go in and demand it, but you have to earn people's trust and their respect. So I felt it was about me going into a club and showing them that the faith they had in me to give me that position, regardless of my age, I was able to go and do that job. And that was the biggest thing for me, that I was able to go and do it. Yes, it's a privilege to have the accolades, but I had a job to do. So all I focused on my job and making sure that I was the best version of myself for that football club at the time that I was there.
It's incredible. I mean, becoming a CEO at the age of 30, I mean, you probably never thought about it beforehand.
I didn't. And that's what I said to you about when opportunities came and that one came, I was super blown away. I was like, what?
It's crazy.
I didn't apply for it. Like, it's not something I was like, oh, I want to be a CEO. I didn't even think about it. But I was just like, you know what? I believe in God. So things happen. And I was like, this is a sign. I need to learn about it. I'm always moaning about things from behind the scenes. How about you find out about it? And that's what I did.
It's incredible. Going back into your coaching now.
Yeah.
You've managed however many seasons now, and you've done so many pre-seasons. Have you got that one thing where you go, okay, I'm going to stick to that every single pre-season? Or has it always changed a whole lot?
Yeah, always the process of diarising and setting up training. I always know what I'm going to do every session for all of pre-season. So I always know. Obviously, I adapt to levels and what club I'm at, but I always set it out from what I'm going to do fat testing wise, what I'm going to do fitness wise, and making sure that I do a lot of work on disguise running opposed to hill runs and just sprints. I mean, I want people to be doing things with the ball. So a lot of my training was really focused on pre-season and everything like that, about disguise running and making sure you get the most out of the play so that they're enjoying, because no one really enjoys pre-season. I hated it as a player. And that's the days when you had to do hill runs. Trust me, when I was in Norway, we were running in mountains. People was calling me Bambi because I was slipping. You know, I was running with deers and mooses. It was crazy. Imagine, you know, deers and mooses running towards you. You're like, whoa! Do you get what I mean? With their big horns. I'm like, Jesus. It's like, what are we doing here? So come on, Bambi on ice. Let's go there. Spill on. Come on. We are Vikings. I'm like, guys, this is not for me. Jesus.
So the game has changed over the years. How important is it that you adapt towards the modern game?
100%. I think this is when we talk about learning. You always need to be learning. I'm always listening. I'm always going out watching games. I'm always trying to see what's going on because it's so important. You know, players change. The pace of the game's changing. The philosophies are changing. So it's just about getting in tune with what's going on, you know, and understanding what needs to be done. I think that's fundamental. There's no two way. Anybody that says they're stuck in their old ways is ridiculous. So I would always still, you know, adapt and tune up my training, no pun intended with your name, but I would always make sure that my training is tweaked to be as modern as it possibly can. And that's by educating myself.
Would you say, obviously for the young coaches who are trying to learn of people like you, would you say going out and watching games and watching other coaches' sessions are really important to your own education?
100% fundamental. if you get a chance, go to clubs as much as you can. Just speak to people. Like, managers and coaches are going to be welcoming you to come in, and if they're not, then that's out of order. Because I would. Anybody that, as I said, I had people come and approach me. I'm like, yeah, come down, have a look. There's no secret. Like, what they're going to do, steal your stuff, and then what it's going to change the way you go on. Don't be silly. At the end of the day, no one's going to replicate what you can do the same way you can do it. But at the same time, you're giving something back. You're helping someone pick up things to, make their, because I've gone to training sessions and I've looked at things from Southend, from Colchester, from Leighton Orient, from Barnet, from loads of different clubs. And I've gone there and I'm like, okay, this is good. Conference clubs, and I'm like, wow, okay, is that how you do your training? But I can't do all of them sessions. I've adapted it to how it works for me. People go on the internet trying to look. You can go on the internet all you want, but until you see it live, you see the measurements of the cones, and you see how things are done, the environment, and the way the players are reacting to the session, then it's no good. You have to be there live and direct. So it's so important that if you can, I'll say to any young coach, try and get around. Development's key. You are the future of the game. So, broaden your horizons as much as you can.
Definitely. I got asked a question last week, funny enough. And the question to me was, how do you deal with a player that doesn't have discipline?
Okay, so how do you deal with a player that has discipline? It's a tricky question because there's different ways. The young me, the old me used to be like, there's no players, I'm not going to let any player be, bigger than me. I'm not going to have that, do you know what I mean? But it's just about understanding the player. Let me explain that. So a player doesn't have discipline, you need to know what makes them tick. Why don't they have discipline? What is it about them? And if it's something you can't fix, you can't help everybody, You can't help everybody. There's some people that just have a DNA of just destructive behavior. They're just not disciplined. They're not interested. They don't want it. They're not hungry enough. They haven't got the fire in their belly. Those people you just got to let go because you can't help everybody. But if they're open-minded and willing to listen, big words, they're willing to listen, then you're going to be all right. I think one of the key things of discipline is just identifying each individual, their personal circumstances, what's going on, because it could be a deeper reason for them, upbringing, family life, the fact they don't even love the game, play it for the sake of playing it, they're all about money. Could be different reasons for discipline, but it's about how you deal with the discipline, and how you deal with it is by talking. Communication is key. Finding out the situation. Why is the person acting like that? That's the biggest thing. Find out why. And if you can't find out why, then you've either got to make two decisions. How good is the player in your team? How effective is he? And how much of a bad apple is he going to be? Got to weigh it up.
No, fantastic. I mean, I learned something out of that. So I can take that on board and obviously use it if I ever get into one of them situations.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You went into full-time football.
Yeah.
Where you was training a number amount of days, almost every day, and then you obviously had a day break before a game or whatever.
Yeah.
How hard is it harder or is it easier when it's full-time?
Full-time, you get a lot more time to be able to have effective sessions. You've got no excuses then to be able to fit in all your sessions on in a week basis, even with a day off for recovery purposes. But I feel that, I have to give a lot of credit to non-league football clubs because of the 2 days a week, or sometimes even one day, where you're having to train. A couple of hours, if that, maybe less. As I said, small areas. So yes, the full-time clubs have a lot of advantage and have a lot of benefit. People talk about fitness, of course, fitness, but they get a lot more time to work on tactical and technical stuff that's going to enable them to be successful. That's why, 8, 9 times out of 10, you get the odd shocks because you have teams that take teams for granted in the FA Cup. and they get knocked out, and the other team wants it a little bit more. But it's not about the training, it's more just about who wants it more on the day. And cup shocks happen all the time.
So has there ever been a moment in your career, in your full-time career, let's say, that you've kind of just gone blank and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to actually work on at the end of the week, for example?
Luckily, I've not had that problem because obviously I try and plan as much as I can. I try and plan. Normally it's been an exhausting week, so I could probably say that, look, Jesus, I wish I had an extra day's rest, if I'm going to say anything. But it's more like, or the better thing to say is, if I was going to do a repeat session that I didn't think the players really responded to well, I was a bit like, oh, is this going to make sense me doing that? Should I change the session? So that's probably a better way to answer the question you've asked me, by just saying that probably I've had to adapt my training to sort of suit the type of players we had, to keep them interested and motivated for the session, for me to get the best out of them.
So would you say, you haven't had that, obviously you haven't had that kind of experience where you kind of went blank. Is it harder to keep players tuned in when you've got them in every day?
No, not really, because most of them love it. A lot of them, not training for long, so it's not too much. It's not too much of a problem. Short and sharp sessions, they get a lot of time to recover throughout the day, unless the gaffer primarily wants, because obviously more as a coach full-time, I wasn't a manager as a full-time manager. But, the gaffer would make a decision and say, look, we're going to have a double session. That's when you had beef. We had double sessions. They're like, what? No. And trust me, I remember being a player and having double sessions. I'm telling you now, it hurts. And like when I give players double sessions in pre-season, they lose their marbles. But I still do it. It's never going to change. So if anyone's watching that doesn't want to sign from me again, I understand if it's the double sessions.
I mean, if it works for you and he gets results, then why not?
Yeah, of course. You can't overtrain a team to a point. You've just got to be sensible. It's got to be a certain amount of time and recovery, because every player's body's different. So you need to make sure you're looking after them and making sure that they've got the right fluid intake. And one of the biggest things I've always done is making sure that players try and stick to a respectable diet in what they're eating and how they look after themselves. Easier in pro clubs because you can test them on a regular basis. Non-league clubs, not as easy, because people got KFCs, Five Guys, and all of these things that we like eating. Jerky here and there, there's a lot of food there that's fattening, that's dangerous, but it happens. It's got to go.
If you had to pick out your whole career in managing, your worst moment, what would it be?
Worst moment would probably be, it's going to be the defeat. So we've got slapped up 6s and 7s. I didn't like that because I went home upset. I think maybe, no, it's going to be back as far back as, no. It will be when I was at Bishop Stortford and we got to the semi-final of the FA Trophy. And we was 5 minutes away from going to the final and Hucknall scored 2 to beat us. Yeah, wow. That killed me. That was it. That was the worst moment. FA Trophy, about to get to the final and Hucknall beat us. Hucknall Town, never going to forget that. That was the worst moment because I thought we was going to win.
In them situations,
yeah.
What's the team talk like after the game?
5 minutes to go. Jesus Christ. The players have worked hard. I think it's one of them ones that they've done everything you've asked them to do, but they've switched off. And then you just discuss about learning curves, I think. What could we, in-game management, big words, in-game management. 5 minutes to go, a team should never score 2 goals. Shouldn't happen, but it did happen because we switched off. Our in-game management wasn't right. We didn't block and hold when we needed to. We didn't keep the play in front. We didn't press in the right areas. We didn't clear our lines. We played in dangerous areas, and we gave away sloppy set pieces, which we knew they were strong at before we played them. So that's how they got there too, by set pieces. And we knew we shouldn't give them set pieces. So that was a sickening moment. Quarterfinal in the Vase, sickening moment. We lost. Lost in extra time just before penalties when I was at Brimsdown. Could have got to the semi-final. That's probably the next time. Other than that, no other times.
If you had to pick your best moment, what would it be?
Oh, mate. Just winning all the championships that I've won. I've got to be honest. It's got to be I think the record I've set at Brimsdown probably has to be the highlight. Even though I've won other leagues elsewhere. But I think to win the league in style and have a record and teams fearing playing you. And you know, I think we had lost 1 game all season. And when the team celebrated when they beat us, then I knew we was the bee's knees. And then we battered them 8-0 the next game. So I knew we should have. And that's because our in-game, we took them for granted. We lost that game because of me, because I allowed the ball boys to come in the changing room, I allowed the boys to relax. We didn't have the same preparation in the game that we had in every other game. But then I just changed it, I allowed the boys to relax. We didn't do the usual because we'd been battering everything. I knew we'd beat them. I'd look at them. And I took them for granted. That's why we lost. It was my fault, or else we would have had a 100% record.
Wow. Do you regret that?
Yeah, every day. Every day. Because I wanted that 100% record, then I would have been happy, innit? But you can't have everything. The record still stands. It's still great. It's still strong. Can't complain. But if I didn't have that 1 defeat, I'd rather 3 or 4 or 5 defeats. Don't matter then. 1 to a team you beat 8-0 the next game, you feel sick.
100%. If you had to give a young coach who's doing their level 1, doing their level 2, if you had to give him one piece of advice, what would it be?
Listen. Listen and observe. So important. Because as much as you may think the sessions are boring, it's good to gain what you can from the bookworms, as they call it, the traditional way of coaching. But then on top of that, experiment. That'll be the thing. When you're going to do your session off the back of your courses, don't just take what you've learned off the courses and do it. Experiment. Make mistakes. You will only learn from the mistakes you make. But you need to be big enough to accept I've made a mistake and be like, right, I can fix it. Because if you keep making the same mistakes, then you have problems. So make mistakes. You learn from your mistakes. Trust me, you do. I've made loads of mistakes. And like I spoke to you about a few of them now, there's lots of things I regret. The decisions I've made, poor preparation, coaching sessions, lots of things, being too comfortable, take a team for granted, which since then I've never done it again. Never, ever. Never, ever, ever, ever.
It's interesting. So when are we going to see you back in the game? That's the question everyone wants to know.
I know. My phone keeps ringing all the time. Trust me about people saying what's going on. Listen, I've spoken to a few clubs, but it's just, it is about timing. That's the best words. Timing, the right club, right position, right time. That's what I'm going to say. It's going to happen, and I will be back this season coming up once it resumes, whenever it is. That is more than a promise because I'm focusing on coming back.
Newsflash. Where's the shadow lights?
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, it's one of them. It's timing, but it's going to happen. I'm looking forward to it. I've missed that part of what we've been discussing there. Just going back over those things there. As I said, as they say, I looked at my trophy cabinet, it's looking a bit dusty, so I need to sort it out. Do you know what I mean?
Now, outside of football, you're a motivational speaker as well.
Yeah, well, so people say. I don't know if I'm good. Do you know what I mean? Oh, Jesus Christ, I think I'm okay. You know what I say? I'm more of an inspirational speaker. There is a difference between the two. I think you can motivate people, but you know, when you can inspire people to do better and to look at themselves and be realistic, I think it makes more sense. So I enjoy the elements of boosting people up and them believing in themselves, knowing where they can add value. That's why I've got the brand that I have about believing and achieving, because I want people's mindset to be about, if I truly believe in what it is I'm doing, then I can achieve it. Don't waste your time. I always say, don't do a job for the sake of doing the job, because you're never going to be happy. And don't waste your time. Life is too short. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, so we don't take it for granted.
It's crazy. Do you think that helps you within your management career?
100%, because I've got that mindset. I've always put up little signs around there so that players can see from a mentality point of view what I expect from them. You know, every time they come in, they look around and they're seeing lots of different quotes, my own quotes that I put out there, what I want them to go out and do. So, yeah, but the biggest thing is, you know, when you're a leader, you have to lead by example. Yeah, not by the iron fist, by example. And if you're positive and you believe as a coach, a manager, assistant manager, whoever's in charge, whatever your position is, players buy into that. If you're full of rubbish and you just talk out of your, out of your backside, then people are going to see it. They're going to see that. And I'm giving your podcast respect without swearing. You know, I mean, I've done well, I've kept it clean. But yeah, no, it's so important that, you know, every player understands that if you're leading the ship, you're able to sail it from a professional and a positive mindset point of view.
It's incredible. I mean, wow. It's crazy to hear your story and where you've come, and you should be proud of yourself.
You know, it is. I don't think I'm ever going to be proud of myself until I get to where I believe I deserve to be. Everyone thinks they should be a Premier League manager, they should be higher up. And I'm no different, you know what I mean? I believe I should be higher, but I have to earn my stripes, Fish. I've got to earn my stripes again. And I think that's the one thing. Until I'm taken off this planet, I'll carry on being in football. It's a factor. Until I'm no longer here breathing, you'll see me in the game. Factor.
Which is incredible.
And climbing the ladder. But more smarter this time round. Jesus.
Well, you have to experience it to learn from it, don't you?
Yeah, of course. As I said, when you're younger, you do what you have to do. And I think, as I said, stability is key. And I would always say that to people. But the one thing in football now is you don't have a lot of time. It's results driven. You've got to prove yourself early. You've got to prove yourself. You're not winning games. Bye-bye next. And every club's always got someone lined up to take your spot.
100%. Would you say managers have got the hardest role?
Yeah, because playing, all you've got to think about is playing. You turn up, you play, you get released, you get sold, you move on to the next club. You go again. Managers, you've got to keep the fans happy. You've got to try and keep a squad happy. You've got to look at the football club from the perspective of the coaching team, the reserves, the youth, or the under-23s development, whichever way your club works. So you have got a difficult job.
Would you say it's mentally tough?
Yeah, of course, it's definitely mentally draining. I think it's one of them things where you have to have mental strength to be able to do it. It takes up a lot of your time, regardless of whatever level it is. I always believe it's full-time. It's something you do a lot. If you've got a missus, she will tell you about it because she knows you're on the phone all the time. You're doing loads of things to do with football. And like, you know, I've got TVs everywhere. So I'm like, I could be in a conservative, I could be in an extension watching something and they'll be like, oh, I thought we was going to watch a film. I'm like, darling, I'm in the middle of, you know what I mean, preparing for a game. that film can wait until later, you know what I mean? But then you've also got to have the balance right, because your missus will start switching on you. You don't want that headache. You know what I mean?
You don't want that.
So, so you got to get the balance right.
I'm going to go into my last question.
Okay, yeah, fire away. Listen, as much as you want. Listen, I'm here for you.
You honour me, honestly. It's a pleasure. How hard is it to deal with players on contracts?
Yeah, if you've got a good bunch of players, then it ain't a problem. It's when you've got bad apples, you've got players that don't want to be at the club, got players that want to just pick up their money. That's difficult. And that tests you as a manager, because unfortunately, especially nowadays, a lot of players have power. And that's an issue. And that's an issue to me. Players having too much power, you know, them being able to dictate and determine, because players will last at a club longer than managers.
Yes.
That's generally the case. Unless you're able to convince the board to sell an individual, more than likely that player's staying at the club, and you may not if things don't go according to plan. So it's one of them that you have to be mentally strong, and you can't take it personal. That's one thing I will say, and that's one thing I do learn.
Football's football.
Football's football. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a business and it's a game. They've made it more businessy, they've made it more commercial, and it's a business when they make a decision to let you go, but it's a game at the end of the day. The game is not a difficult game. Players, coaches, managers sometimes make it difficult, but if everybody's on the same page, the game could be beautiful and easy. As easy as you want to make it. But everybody, every single person has to buy into it. Everybody.
You know what? Another question just sprung to my mind.
Oh, come on, hit me. Anything. No problem.
The press. If you had to give a tip to someone to deal with press, what would be your tip?
Listen to the question. Sounds silly. Listen to the question. And think before you answer the question. Never be emotional when you're going to answer a question. The best time for the press to catch you is after a defeat in a game.
Yes. Because
your emotions are high. You want to say different things, and not necessarily the right thing to say. So you've got to try and compose yourself. Delay going into that media session as long as you can, so you can prepare yourself for whatever question is coming, so you know how to deal with what the questions are going to be. Because when you go in emotional and they've got you, then the next minute you're reading about things, you're thinking, oh, I wish I never said that.
And that could hurt you within your role.
Yeah, long term. Yeah, it'll kill you. So you just got to box clever. You've got to listen, answer the question. Be honest, but don't be too open. Sometimes you've got to hold certain things back, because people will they'll pick up on things. If there's animosity and there's problems behind the club, don't state it to the press. Keep it in-house. Whatever issues you have, you always keep indoors. Keep it between the four walls, and that's the best way to be with things.
Is there anyone or anything you want to shout out, Boatsy?
Anyone that I want to shout out to? You. Because you're a big man. You know, you've actually done fantastic. Listen, this interview, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been immense. The structure, the questioning, what you've done up to now has been immense. You know, big up Roots here. I already bigged him up before, but I'll big him up again. He's doing big things, and I think you guys, Holmes, you're going to actually smash it this year. I want people to look out for you. My guy Barnsley at Staines, I'm glad that he's been sorted out, and he's going to be doing well for Staines. Watch this space. There's a lot of people I want to big up, but I don't want to over big up too many people. Let me just big you guys up from now. Keep it simple, because you are all good guys, all genuine guys, and I think at the end of the day, I always want to show respect where respect is due.
No, you honour us, and I'm sure Barnsley and Roots will both say the same thing. Like, you honour us.
Listen, you honour me. You honour me. When I see you going up the ladder, don't forget about us little people, yeah? Say hello on your way up. Say hello. Yeah.
No, I'm taking you guys with me. Don't worry.
I love that. Listen, it's been emotional. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's been very therapeutic and educational. It's something that I'm really happy that we've been able to do today.
No, 100%. Is there any companies you want to shout out? Your own company, for example?
Well, listen, Boateng Believe and Achieve, I always speak about just the brand. And the reason why I speak about it is because it ties into mental health. Obviously, I've done a lot of things with charity, with Mind, to ensure people's mindset is right. And I think when you have that in your mind, because when I set up Boateng Believe and Achieve, it wasn't for my pride. It wasn't because I loved my name. It was for the sheer fact that it represents me, Boateng as in my surname. But Boateng always believes and achieves. I could say Gordan believes, but it just didn't work. So, I just decided to go with the brand, which was my surname, and go with Believe and Achieve, obviously, which is the company. Obviously, I've got my own clothing line for that, because it's for people that really either been struggling in life, are misunderstood, people that want to lose weight, people that who are lost, people that just want to be heard. Do you get what I mean? People that want to be heard, and just for people that really just suffer with low esteem. Do you get what I mean? And not having the self-esteem. So I think it's one of the biggest things really, just to give back. And that's why I love going on tour. I love doing my speaking tours where I'm going around trying to inspire people up and down the UK. There's no better feeling than doing that. No better feeling.
I mean, if I had to ask you for one favor, it would be let me come on tour.
Listen, you will honour me by coming, and I'll get you on stage as well, and you can't run away then.
Oh, no. I can't do stages, Boatsy.
Nah, you can't run away in front of them 500 people. I'll be like, right, so can we have Tuna's going to come up, aka Fish. Everyone's going to look around. You're going to be like, there he is picking, but let's get him up.
I'll be in the dressing room. Locked.
Yeah, that's the one.
No, 100%. Is there any way people can contact you for your company? Is there a certain way?
Yeah, a lot of it's done by my Instagram. Obviously, it's at Gordan Boateng. Everything's normally at Gordan Boateng. I've got 2 actual Twitters. So I've got at Gordan Boateng on Twitter, and I've got at the Gaffer GB on Twitter as well, which is the one that I've just started up, which is only mainly for football. So I've only recently just got that up. That's why I've probably not got that much followers on there, because it's new. But yeah, that's the way. And as they say, I'm easy to find. The word Google comes into play, mate.
Google's an amazing thing, right?
There you go. So people can find me anytime.
No, 100%. All your socials will be down in the below.
Yeah.
To find out, and so they can get in contact with you if they need to.
Yeah, of course. I'm always there to help. What's that?
Hopefully a gem will come through, a player.
Yeah, exactly. Anything can happen, and I think there's loads of gems. And you're a gem. You come in as a coach, a gem as you are. You know what I mean? You're going places. You're a big man. Told you. I'm waiting for your autograph. Nothing's come through the post yet. You promised me, but
I did. It's on the way.
Oh, good man. First class though, yeah? No second class stamps, fella.
No. We don't do second class around here. Not for Boatsy.
I appreciate that. But as I said, any more questions, ask me. If not, it's been an honour. And I want to just say to everybody, make sure you tune in on a weekly basis. I know my man here will make sure you have the right content to broaden your horizons, because this beautiful game, there's so much opinion, so much views, so many people with different experiences, and it's about listening and learning. No one should be short-minded and think they know everything, because we don't. The more we listen to other people's experiences, the more we can gain from it to make our experiences better and make us better in what we're doing, and that's a factor. And the management podcast is the place to be. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow, and make sure you retweet.
You honour me, honestly. No,
there you go, you're done. Yeah,
honestly, Thank you for your time, Boatsy. It's been over 2 hours, so thank you so much for your time.
A lot of editing for you to do, son. So, pick your best bits, mate. Jesus.
I will do, don't worry.
I promised you, didn't I? I told you it's going to be real.
You did.
Told you.
Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming and sharing your experience with people. It's not easy. But yeah, if you guys liked, as Boatsy said, please like, subscribe, follow, and retweet.